The entire world held its breath in that unforgettable moment. For Japanese figure skating, it felt like a miracle at the end of a journey that had taken decades. But what Riku Miura and Ryuichi Kihara, known around the world as Riku Ryu, accomplished cannot be fully described by simply calling it an Olympic gold medal. This was more than a victory. It was the culmination of years of sacrifice, relentless determination, and a dream that many believed would never become reality. Today, we're taking a deep dive into the incredible story behind their historic achievement, the reactions pouring in from international media, and the remarkable path that led them to the top of the world. How did they overcome countless obstacles? How did a nation that had long struggled in pair skating suddenly rise to Olympic glory? The answers lie in a story that began years before the bright lights of the Milan Cortina Olympics. A story woven together by fate, perseverance, and an unbreakable partnership. Looking back, moments that change sports history often appear sudden to the outside world. Yet behind every historic breakthrough are years of preparation, setbacks, and unseen sacrifices. That's exactly what makes Riku Ryu's story so extraordinary. If someone had told me 5 years ago that Japan would one day stand atop the Olympic podium in pair skating, I would have struggled to believe it. At the time, such a scenario seemed almost impossible. But Riku Miura and Ryuichi Kihara didn't just win medals, they completely transformed the landscape of Japanese pair skating. To understand how they reached the summit, we need to travel back to where it all began. The year was 2019. At that time, Japanese pair skating faced a difficult reality. Nations like China, Russia, and Canada dominated the discipline. Their athletes consistently filled podium spots at major international competitions, while Japan struggled to establish itself among the elite. Within skating circles, a harsh belief had become widely accepted. Japanese pair skating simply couldn't compete with the world's best. Even qualifying for major international events was a challenge, and very few young skaters chose to pursue pair skating as a career path. On the global stage, powerhouse nations seemed untouchable. Almost nobody imagined that Japan would one day challenge their dominance. Yet amid that uncertainty stood two athletes who refused to accept those limitations. Ryuichi Kihara had originally built his career as a singles skater. However, after reaching a crossroads in his competitive journey, he made a bold decision. He would leave the familiar world of singles skating behind and dedicate himself to pair skating. It was an enormous risk. Everything he had spent years building suddenly became secondary to a much bigger dream. Meanwhile, Riku Miura was facing her own pivotal moment. Armed with strong technical skills developed through singles competition, she also chose to embrace a new challenge and enter the demanding world of pair skating. Though their backgrounds were different, they shared one powerful belief. They wanted something bigger. They wanted to chase a dream that extended far beyond personal success. Normally, newly formed pair teams require years to develop world-class chemistry. Given Japan's limited history in the discipline, expectations were understandably low. But Riku and Ryuichi refused to be discouraged. Looking back now, Kihara's decision to leave singles skating may have been one of the most courageous choices in modern Japanese figure skating. Walking away from an established career and starting over in an entirely different discipline is far easier said than done. Yet he embraced the uncertainty. And on the other side of that leap stood the partner who would help change Japanese skating forever. Their lives would intersect in a moment that neither could have fully anticipated. In 2019, during a crucial tryout session, Riku Miura and Ryuichi Kihara stepped onto the ice together for the first time. One of the first elements they attempted was a twist lift. For pair skaters, the twist lift is among the most fundamental and important technical elements. The male partner launches the female partner high into the air, where she rotates before landing smoothly back on the ice. Even during that very first attempt, something felt different. Both skaters later recalled experiencing a sensation unlike anything they had ever felt before. Their timing clicked instantly. Their movements seemed naturally connected. It wasn't just technical compatibility. It felt as though they were sharing the same rhythm, the same breathing pattern, and the same vision. That moment changed everything. From that day forward, their future began moving in a completely new direction. What happened next stunned the skating world. Their development was astonishingly fast. Soon after forming their partnership, they relocated to Canada to train under world-class coaches and immerse themselves in one of the strongest pair skating environments on the planet. There they dedicated themselves to refining every detail of their craft. They worked tirelessly on side-by-side jump synchronization. They perfected the timing and precision of their pair spins. They sharpened difficult elements such as death spirals, throw jumps, lifts, and intricate transitions. One particularly impressive achievement was how quickly they mastered highly demanding jump combinations, where both skaters must execute identical timing with almost flawless precision. As they entered Grand Prix competitions, they gained valuable experience against the world's elite. Each competition revealed new challenges, but it also confirmed one important fact: they belonged among the best. During the 2021-22 season, they captured a silver medal at the Grand Prix final, breaking through barriers that Japanese pair skating had struggled against for decades. At the 2022 Beijing Olympics, they represented Japan in the team event and demonstrated to the world just how rapidly they were improving. The momentum continued. At the 2023 World Championships, they earned Japan's first-ever World Championship medal in pair skating. Then came an even bigger breakthrough. At the 2024 World Championships, they climbed even higher and captured silver. Their scores continued reaching new heights. Records that once seemed unattainable for Japanese pair skaters were suddenly being rewritten. For the first time, Japan was no longer chasing the world's best. They were becoming one of the world's best. Every time I rewatch those performances, I still get chills. What makes their rise so remarkable isn't just talent. It's the trust they built together. It's the lonely training sessions far from home. It's the countless hours spent perfecting details that most people would never notice. Unlike traditional pair skating powerhouses that often spend a decade developing Olympic champions, Riku Ryu achieved their rise through an entirely different path, and that path ultimately led them to the biggest stage of all, the Milan-Cortina Olympics, the moment where everything they had worked for would finally be tested. The moment the scores appeared on the screen, Riku Miura and Ryuichi Kihara looked at each other and burst into tears. It was a scene that instantly captured the hearts of figure skating fans around the world. Within minutes, clips of the emotional moment spread across social media. Fans from every corner of the globe shared screenshots, videos, and heartfelt reactions. Many wrote that a single expression on their faces told the entire story of the Olympics. Others called it the most beautiful kiss and cry moment they had ever witnessed. One fan posted, "Watching Riku Ryu reminds me that the true essence of pair skating isn't technical difficulty, it's trust." That sentiment quickly resonated across the skating community. On social media platforms around the world, hashtags related to Riku Ryu began trending. Even fans who didn't speak Japanese made an effort to type messages like "Thank you, Riku Ryu," using Japanese characters, creating countless heartwarming moments online. A short clip showing Miura tightly holding Kihara's hand while waiting for the scores accumulated millions of views in just a few days. For me personally, one of the most touching moments came immediately after the score announcement. Without saying a word, Kihara gently pulled Miura closer and placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. It was a simple gesture, yet in that single movement, years of trust, sacrifice, and partnership seemed to be condensed into one unforgettable image. Fans around the world felt the same way. Comments poured in saying, "Why am I crying with them?" And I don't even know these athletes personally, but I can't stop crying. And honestly, I completely understand. Because when you look at their faces in that moment, you're not just seeing two athletes celebrating a victory. You're seeing 7 years of struggle, perseverance, disappointment, growth, and unwavering belief finally paying off. Everything they had built since that fateful tryout in 2019 was reflected in those tears. But what happened next was equally moving. The reactions from their rivals. As the competition concluded and the final standings became official, skaters from other nations approached Riku Ryu to congratulate them. The scene was beautiful. One of the greatest qualities of figure skating has always been its culture of mutual respect. Athletes compete fiercely against one another, yet they also understand better than anyone the sacrifices required to reach the highest level. Perhaps the most memorable sight was seeing teams from nations that had traditionally dominated pair skating warmly celebrate Japan's achievement. There was no bitterness, no resentment, only genuine admiration. These athletes understood exactly how much work had gone into earning that gold medal. Across international skating communities, fans praised the display of sportsmanship. This is what sports should look like: victory and heartbreak sharing the same ice. Figure skating at its absolute best. Those were just some of the reactions appearing online. Many media outlets also highlighted the careers of the silver and bronze medalists, emphasizing how their rivalry with Riku Ryu had elevated the entire sport. One rival coach offered perhaps the most powerful statement of all. "Today, Miura and Kihara were perfect. There can be no argument about this gold medal." That simple comment resonated deeply with fans everywhere. To me, the respect shown by their competitors may be the strongest proof of how beloved Riku Ryu have become throughout the global skating community. Only those who have climbed the same mountain truly understand what it takes to reach the summit, and only those athletes can fully appreciate what Riku Ryu accomplished. In many ways, the medal ceremony became more than a celebration of Olympic champions. It became a celebration of figure skating itself. But perhaps the most fascinating part of this story is how the rest of the world reacted. Because the moment Riku Ryu won Olympic gold, international media erupted. The coverage made it clear that this was no longer simply a figure skating result. It had become a global sports story. Major newspapers and broadcasters across Europe, North America, and Asia praised their achievement. Many described it as a revolution for Japanese pair skating. Others called it one of the greatest breakthroughs in modern Olympic history. Journalists highlighted how Japan had once been considered an outsider in pair skating, a nation with little history of challenging the dominant powers. Yet somehow, within a remarkably short period of time, Riku Ryu had completely rewritten those expectations. Reporters praised not only their technical excellence, but also the emotional depth of their performances. Many argued that their skating transcended scores and judging criteria. It connected with audiences on a human level. Analysts focused on their extraordinary chemistry, their artistic interpretation, and the trust that seemed visible in every movement they performed together. Some experts pointed to the transformation of Japan's training system and the decision to base themselves in Canada as crucial factors behind their rise. Others emphasized the pair's relentless work ethic and willingness to embrace challenges that many athletes would have avoided. Across television broadcasts, commentators struggled to find words that adequately described what they had witnessed. Some simply sat in silence after the performance ended. Others called it one of the most emotionally powerful Olympic performances they had ever seen. Perhaps the most remarkable aspect of all was that praise came from every direction. Technical experts admired their precision. Sports journalists admired their journey. Former champions admired their resilience. And ordinary fans admired the humanity they displayed throughout it all. That level of universal respect is incredibly rare, because true champions don't just win, they inspire. And that's exactly what Riku Ryu accomplished. Yet behind all the headlines, all the medals, and all the international praise, there was another story. A story most people never saw. A story hidden behind the bright lights of competition. Before they became Olympic champions, before they became heroes to millions, there were years filled with loneliness, uncertainty, and emotional battles. Life in Canada wasn't glamorous. Far from home, surrounded by a different language and culture, Miura and Kihara spent countless days training in relative isolation. There were moments of homesickness, moments of frustration, days when their bodies refused to cooperate. Nights when difficult throw jumps failed again and again, despite hours of practice. The reality is that those difficult days vastly outnumbered the moments of celebration. One training session, shown later in a documentary, revealed just how hard those struggles could be. After a disappointing competition where mistakes in the short program cost them a medal, Miura repeatedly attempted a throw triple jump during practice. After another failed landing, she collapsed onto the ice, not because of physical injury, because she was emotionally exhausted. Anyone who has pursued a difficult dream knows that feeling, that moment when your body is still capable of continuing, but your spirit feels completely drained. What happened next revealed everything about their partnership. Kihara quietly skated over. He didn't offer advice. He didn't give a motivational speech. He didn't tell her to get up. Instead, he simply sat beside her on the ice and stayed there. Sometimes the greatest form of support isn't finding the perfect words. It's simply being present. That silent act spoke louder than any speech ever could. Then came one of the most revealing stories from the weeks leading up to the Milan Cortina Olympics. About 2 weeks before the Games, Miura began struggling to sleep. For pair skaters, sleep deprivation can be devastating. Even the slightest disruption in balance, timing, or focus can affect dangerous elements like throw jumps and lifts. Late at night, unable to rest, she would leave the athletes' village and walk alone while listening to the music from their free skating program. The familiar melodies helped calm her mind. They reminded her why she had started this journey in the first place. Meanwhile, Kihara faced the pressure in his own way. Whenever he felt nervous, he developed a routine. Early in the morning, before most people were awake, he would walk around the rink with a cup of coffee and mentally rehearse every detail of their performance. Some days he could barely eat, but he never skipped the coffee. It's a small detail, yet somehow it makes him feel even more relatable. Like all great athletes, they weren't fearless. They simply found ways to keep moving forward despite their fears. Then on the night before the Olympic competition, their coach shared a message that would stay with them forever. You have worked harder than anyone to get here. Tomorrow, it's okay to feel nervous. It's okay to feel afraid. But never forget that every emotion you experience on the ice is the result of all the years you've invested in this dream. Trust those emotions. Trust your training. Your body knows where to go. For Miura, those words changed everything. For the first time in days, she slept peacefully. And on the morning of the competition, Kihara greeted her with a simple sentence. "Let's enjoy today. The results will take care of themselves." Just one sentence. Yet according to Miura, it completely changed the atmosphere between them. Because after years together, no lengthy explanation was necessary. The trust they had built over countless practices, competitions, setbacks, and victories was already there. And as the pressure intensified following the short program, they remained calm, focused. Connected, the transformation was remarkable. The same athlete who had struggled to sleep just days earlier now carried herself with complete composure before the most important performance of her life. For me, that emotional transformation may be the most inspiring part of the entire story. Talent exists everywhere. Technical skill can be taught. But the ability to master your emotions, trust your partner completely, and perform under the greatest pressure imaginable, that is what separates Olympic champions from everyone else. Only a handful of athletes in history have ever reached that level. Just as legendary athletes like Michael Phelps overcame incredible adversity on their way to Olympic glory, Riku Miura and Ryuichi Kihara also conquered the storm within themselves before they conquered the world. And when we place their journey within the broader context of history, the significance of what they achieved becomes even greater. To truly understand the magnitude of Riku Ryu's accomplishment, we need to take a step back and look at the history of Japanese figure skating. For decades, Japan has produced some of the greatest singles skaters the sport has ever seen. From Midori Ito's groundbreaking triple axel to Mao Osada's unforgettable performances to Yuzuru Hanyu's revolutionary quad jumps, Japanese skaters have repeatedly changed the course of figure skating history. But pair skating was a different story. For years, a world championship podium seemed out of reach. An Olympic medal felt almost impossible. The challenges were enormous. Pair skating places tremendous physical demands on athletes. Lift elements often favor larger athletes with significant strength advantages, something many believed put Japanese teams at a disadvantage compared to traditional powerhouse nations. There were also limited coaching resources, fewer developmental programs, and fewer opportunities for specialized pair training within Japan. Many athletes who dreamed of competing internationally had little choice but to seek opportunities overseas. That was the reality for years. When Riku Ryu competed at the Beijing Olympics in 2022, they had already begun changing that reality. But what followed was even more extraordinary. World championship medals, record-breaking performances, and ultimately, Olympic gold. It was one of the fastest and most dramatic rises ever seen in Japanese figure skating history. There have been other underdog stories in pair skating. There have been moments when smaller skating nations challenged traditional powers. But what makes Riku Ryu's achievements so unique is that they reached the top without abandoning the qualities that made them who they were. Yes, they improved technically. Yes, they developed world-class athleticism, but they also brought something distinctly their own to the ice. Their performances were built on precision, on emotional depth, on elegance, on mutual respect, and above all, on trust. While traditional pair skating often emphasized physical dominance and power, Riku Ryu demonstrated that connection, artistry, and partnership could be equally powerful weapons. In many ways, they expanded the definition of what pair skating could be. Personally, I believe this moment will be remembered as one of the most important turning points in Japanese figure skating history. A moment that belongs in the same conversation as the sport's most iconic milestones. Because for the first time ever, a Japanese pair team stood at the very top of the Olympic podium, and that changes everything. Naturally, when the gold medal became official, the reaction throughout Japan was overwhelming. Social media exploded. Television networks interrupted regular programming. Sports headlines across the country celebrated the historic achievement. Within minutes, Riku Ryu's names were trending nationwide. Messages of congratulations poured in from current and former skaters, coaches, fans, and sports organizations. Veteran athletes who had spent years trying to build Japanese pair skating expressed immense pride. Many spoke emotionally about finally seeing a dream become reality. Others described the victory as a breakthrough that generations of skaters had worked toward. Some admitted they were brought to tears watching the medal ceremony. And perhaps that's what made the moment so special. This wasn't just a victory for two athletes. It felt like a victory for everyone who had ever believed in Japanese pair skating. Fans shared stories about following Riku Ryu from their earliest days. Some remembered watching their first competitions. Others spoke about how the pair had inspired them to learn more about figure skating. Parents shared stories of children who wanted to start skating after watching their performances. For many people, Riku Ryu had become more than athletes. They had become symbols of possibility. The Japanese skating community also emphasized that this achievement was not an ending. It was a beginning, because now, future generations can grow up knowing that Olympic gold in pair skating is possible. They no longer have to dream about what has never been done. They have proof that it can be done, and that may ultimately become Riku Ryu's greatest legacy. When we step back and look at the entire story, several powerful themes emerge. First, this is not merely a story about winning an Olympic gold medal. It is a story about challenging limits that people once believed could never be overcome. Second, while Riku Miura and Ryuichi Kihara deserve every bit of recognition they have received, their achievement also represents the efforts of countless people who came before them. Coaches, teammates, pioneers. Athletes who never reached the podium themselves, but helped build the foundation that made this moment possible. Sports history is never created by a single individual. It is built by generations. Third, this story demonstrates the extraordinary power of trust. At the highest level of pair skating, technical skill is essential, but technical skill alone does not create champions. Trust does. Trust allows athletes to perform dangerous elements without hesitation. Trust allows them to overcome fear. Trust allows them to remain calm under unimaginable pressure. And trust was the foundation of everything Riku Ryu achieved. Finally, this story is about the future. Although their competitive journey may eventually come to an end, the path they created will remain. Young skaters across Japan now have a roadmap that didn't exist before. A dream that once seemed impossible is now real. The next generation will grow up watching videos of Riku Ryu and believing they can follow in their footsteps. That is how sporting revolutions begin. At its heart, this entire story asks a simple question: what can happen when two people believe completely in one another? Riku Miura and Ryuichi Kihara gave the world a beautiful answer. Yes, they won a gold medal, but they also reminded millions of people why sports matter, because sometimes sports transcend scores, rankings, and records. Sometimes they reveal the very best qualities of human beings: courage, perseverance, trust, sacrifice, and hope. The special program that aired on June 21 allowed viewers to see the full scope of this remarkable journey, from their first tryout in 2019, to the lonely training sessions in Canada, to the sleepless nights before the Olympics, to those unforgettable 4 minutes on the ice in Milan. Every chapter was connected by a single thread, and that thread was Riku Ryu, Riku Miura, Ryuichi Kihara. Thank you for the memories. Thank you for the inspiration. And thank you for showing the world what is possible when talent, dedication, and trust come together. Your legacy will continue to shine long after the final medal ceremony, and your names will forever occupy a special place in the history of Japanese figure skating. As for me, I believe stories like this are incredibly rare. A story where athletic excellence, emotional resilience, personal growth, and human connection all come together so perfectly. That is why the journey of Riku Ryu will always remain unforgettable. and I have no doubt that future generations will look back on this chapter of figure skating history as one of its brightest and most inspiring moments. Thank you so much for watching. What did you think of Riku Miura and Ryuichi Kihara's incredible journey to Olympic gold? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe, leave a like, and turn on notifications so you never miss future stories. Until next time, thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.